Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Empowered to Live. I'm your host, Andrea Butler, and this is the podcast where we grow stronger in our faith, walk boldly in purpose, and get real about what it means to live empowered in today's world. And today we are going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. We've had some heavy weeks about talking about stuff and um, that were it was needed and very necessary that we get rid of the weight, the lies, the relationships that didn't serve us. We got rid of church hurt. We've gotten rid of just so many different things over the past few weeks. If you hadn't caught those, go back, watch the replays. We're out here on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook on the Becoming Woman's Network. So go ahead and get caught up to us as to where we are. I can't believe that we are rolling up on the end of June. Guys, we are halfway through the year already, and wasn't it not just January and here we are. Um, it's a few weeks ago we celebrated our 1 year. Yay! Super, super excited about that. And I know God has some great things in store for this podcast as we continue to grow and develop. And for me to get more comfortable, I know it doesn't look that way, but yeah, for me to get a little bit more comfortable and more confident in what I'm doing and how we're doing it and just all the things. So if this podcast has been a blessing to you, um, you know, send me a message. Just let me know about the impact that we're having. I need to know your voice. I shared a few weeks ago that we're working on some things, and one of the things that I'm working on is a roundtable, and I try to have those going forward um, quarterly. So later on this year, I'm still building and developing and seeing what that looks like. That one of our episodes would be kind of a roundtable that will focus on topics, and we'll have a panel type um, conversation. You can send in your questions, or if there's a topic that resonates with you and you want me to focus on more, we want to go deeper into that topic. That's something that I want to do. One of the things that I think that spoke to a lot of people was about the identity, about who am I when I'm not performing. That was an episode that we did um, 3 weeks ago. And so that just really spoke to people, and also church hurt, how we move and get beyond um, those feelings of when the place that should protect and heal us causes the damage. And so there's a lot of people that are struggling with that, and we see that with the decline of the local church because people don't want to come and be a part of organized religion because of the fact that so many people have been hurt in organized religion. But we know that God called us to be the church, and this is what He wants us to do, and this is where we are supposed to come and find the healing that we need to grow together, to learn about who God is and what His plan for us and for our lives are, to find encouragement. But that doesn't always happen, and so how do we move beyond those places? I shared last week about me working on healing my inner child, and maybe your inner child was wounded in church. And how do we move beyond that and get your inner child healed so that you can fully worship God who created you to worship, and not confuse what people did with who God is? And there's a difference. People make poor choices, and in their poor choice, a lot of times people are hurt and people are affected by that. And I know a lot of people who have run away from it because of that, and they're confusing about, why did God allow it? We have free will, And so people make poor decisions. And so not as an excuse as to why. I mean, I've suffered from church hurt. I've suffered from the choices of other people. The poor choices of other people have affected my life greatly, major impact. But I've not allowed it to control me or to destroy my future by holding on to those past hurts and past things. Yes, there are still places that need to be healed, and there's still some wound. Like I told you all last week, sometimes I'm like, "Ooh, didn't know she was hurt right there." let's apply God's word to heal that part. Maybe there's some brokenness in this area and that area, and sometimes our heart needs to be made whole. And there's that challenge going around, that song about, Lord, I need to put me back together, put my heart back together. I've searched all the world over, and I found out that your way is better. And so his way is better. His way is truly better for us. And so just want to encourage you in those areas. So those are some of the things that we want to focus on, and trying to get some panels, some people together, to be able to kind of share those things and take your questions live. And so, or if you want to send in questions, you can do that as well. And then so that they can be prepared and I can be prepared to be able to answer whatever questions you have. So I just wanted to share that with you, and just kind of get your minds running and ruminating about some things that we can talk about. I want this to be about you, not about what I want to see, but what do you want to see? And I want that I want it to be impactful. And I've told you before, that I know a lot, but I don't know everything, and nobody does. And so this is why we bring people on who knows, but I need to know what you need, for me to get those people to be on. I know that really well with our financial workshop that I had with Rita, that turned out really well. And so I want to bring her back to talk about some financial stuff. Um, and so if you have questions about in that arena, she's very gifted in that area, lots of experience. So I want to bring her back at a later date to kind of share and to give some more knowledge to you guys. And so so this is so that's the PSA. And so let's dive into our show. So we're talking about, I said, something that's dear to me, which again, learning lessons about self-care and battling burnout. And burnout is a horrible thing. Been there. I have worked myself and this from I was a child, just being overly busy, filling voids, I think, and being overly so busy. I remember I was volunteering at school. I volunteered in the community. I was a candy striper. I was working a job. I was in a DAX program. I worked in other community stuff. Was a tutor. I was a Girl Scout. Just all at one time, and trying to maintain my grades, and having to being the only girl. I was the one responsible for cooking because my mom worked 2 jobs, and so I would cook dinner. I would be responsible for cleaning up, do laundry, do housework, do all this other stuff. And one day, I just passed out. I was burnt to a crisp. I was burning the candles, both ends, in the middle of everywhere. I just lit my entire candle on fire. And I think I was like 15, 16, maybe somewhere around there, just collapsed. I had burned myself out. And, I remember the doctor saying to me, he was like, look, you have to take care of yourself. You need to rest. And it's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to rest. I don't. Yeah. And there was church choir, Bible study, Sunday school. I was even teaching Sunday school. So again, lots of stuff going on, just a whole lot. My life was just filled up with stuff. I was busy, and it didn't get any better. So I didn't really learn my lesson from passing out. didn't help me that I was just so tired because I was staying up and trying to do, after doing all of that stuff, staying up trying to do my homework, trying to make sure I keep my grades up. I was determined I was going to graduate, in the upper percentiles of my class. And so I was determined to do all of that plus more. And, got myself in the newspaper. It was like, oh, most valuable volunteer, because I was volunteering everywhere. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I shared an article on Facebook. Just busy, busy, busy doing stuff. And like I said, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks that being busy is a badge of honor. It's not. It's not. It's bad for your health. It's bad for your life. It's just bad all around. It's not good. God never called us to be busy, to be so busy that we miss. I saw this quote that sometimes that Satan can't get us to sin, so he'll keep us busy doing good things so that we miss the God things. And I was like, ouch, 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 ouch. That stepped on all my toes. That he keeps us busy doing good, that we miss God. And that's important for us to recognize that that's what he does. He'll keep us just churning and churning, doing stuff, just running, running, running. And I remember I was going to a church in Jersey, and one of the deacons, he came to me and he was just like, sis, he says, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. He said, when people find out that you're willing to do, they will use you until you can't do. And that really struck me, that he was like, you're always volunteering. Every time somebody asks, I'll do it, and you just keep adding stuff onto your plate, until you can't carry the plate anymore because it's so heavy with stuff. And that's not his desire for us. He says that, come on to me, all you are weary and heavy burden, because we can burden ourselves down with stuff, with good things. And he says, and you will find rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, because my yoke is easy, my burdens are light. So he's saying, I didn't call you to carry heavy burdens. That's not what I did. That's not what I called you to. And he said, I gave you the example. 6 days the Lord worked, 7th day he rested. And so that was the example that he left for us, that he's called us to rest. He called us to a place of rest, to get away from the hustle, the bustle, of doing. And are we really serving anyone when we're burnt out? Not really, because that scare for me, I've made myself tired and so burnt out that I made myself sick because I wouldn't rest. And if you don't do, you burn yourself out, you're going to eventually slow down, because you're going to end up flat on your back in somebody's hospital, or just so tired, so exhausted that you cannot function. And that's not what God intends for us, for our lives. That's not what he wants for you. So again, it is not a spiritual gift. It's not, burnout is not proof of your commitment, bad being overcommitted. It is not a requirement for your purpose. We can work in our purpose and not kill ourselves doing it. And it's not something that God asks us to do. And so we confuse busyness with fruitfulness. And so we can be busy. And like I said, if you are one of the persons like me, that somebody asks you to do something and no, it's not a part of your vocabulary, and you're like, oh, sure. And you know that your plate is so full that you can barely pick it up because you've already got commitments. Maybe you've got a family. There was a point I had young children at home, and I was in everything. And I like to be busy, and I do. And it's like I'm semi-retired ish, and in this move to Mexico, and I find myself doing the same thing that I was doing before. And my kids was like, I thought you said that you weren't going to take. And I was like, I'm working on it. I'm working on finding rest, but I do give myself rest, and that's something that I learned. And my kids know my Sunday naps are sacred to me, where I will, where I've got virtual church or in-person church or whatever, Sunday afternoon, I disconnect. My phone is on. You can change it whatever you want to change. Call it. Phones have modes, and you can put the modes on your phone. I'm not sure if that's a Samsung thing or Android thing. Or my pastor said Android. You can put settings on, and they have these modes, and one of those modes is relax mode, and you can put your phone on relax mode if you have it. And I utilize that, or I just silence my phone. Just put it on a charger, silence it. Just nothing. I don't have TV on. I have nothing. And I just rest. I take me a nap. If I wake up, I may read just anything just to, I'm decompressing. I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about what I have to do on Monday and for the rest of the week. Just total disconnect. And again, that's something I had to learn. Again, not learning from my high school experience, picked it up in adulthood, and was down, burnt out again. Because I didn't learn my lessons. I'm one of those, my kids like asked me, it was like, why are old people so stubborn? Young people are stubborn too because we do stuff. Young people do stuff as well because we have to learn that God has given us the gift of the Sabbath. So He didn't give us burnout. It's like I said, it's not a badge of honor. It's not a spiritual gift. It's not what He called us to. He didn't call you to burn out. He called you to walk with Him. And sometimes our best gift to ourselves is the gift of no. I'm sorry, I don't have the bandwidth to take this on. One of my pastors, he talked about this book called Margins, and about how do we live within the margins of our life, that we don't go all the way out to the point that, again, you cannot pour anything from an empty cup. So if you have nothing left and you say to yourself, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, I'm so this, I can't put one foot in front of the other. You go to sleep and you wake up and you're more tired than before you went to bed, and you're just not resting. You've got too much on your plate. And it's kind of like, okay, this is where, again, we're going to sit with, what do you have on your plate? And so you want to write it down. Where are you committed? And some stuff there's, you can't get rid of. Like if you got kids, young kids at home, husbands, those things. Those are those things you can't get. You can't say no to. In a way you can, but we're going to talk about that later. But if you've got so much commitments, whether it's church or you've taken on multiple projects at work, or you've got so much stuff, you're volunteering in the community, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you're just running and you're trying to exercise and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do that, and your plate has just gotten so heavy, I want you to sit down and kind of write out, do some of the things that you are committed to. Are they serving the purpose for which you've been called? Think about that. Are the things that you're doing part of your purpose? Or are you doing it because you're afraid to say no? And I think a lot of times we get into that place. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say no because they'll find somebody else. Their churches, and this has been statistically proven, that only 3% of people in church actually do the work. So where's the other 97, and what are they doing? Because nobody wants to ask them. Or they have learned the word no, and it is said that no is a full sentence. And I had a friend that used to say to me, she's like, well, let's practice the word saying no. And she was like, tell me who died. And she's like, say no. And then she asked me, who died when you said no? And I'm like, nobody. She goes, my point exactly. Her point exactly. We've got to learn to say no. It's important for our mental health, for our physical health, for our spiritual health, that we learn the word no. And so you've got to look at the plate that you've got, make that, again, here we go, me and my writing, write it out. What do you have on your plate that is not serving the purpose of which you're called? So make that list of all the things that you have committed yourself to. Like I said, things, family, they're a given, but they're a given with grace. What do I mean by that? When my kids were younger, I was a single parent. And with my Sunday nap came my kids' Sunday nap. And so I would say, go to your room and grab a book or a coloring book or reading book, a something book, and just take some quiet time, lay down. If you fall asleep, that's great. Whatever. Not, and you just want to just sit quietly and just read a book, color, draw a picture, something. We didn't have we didn't turn TV on a lot. TV times were scheduled time, and they had a window of time for TV, and so that's kind of one of the things that we want to talk about. So that gift of Sabbath, so disconnect from the noise. Phones ringing, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you just disconnect. Just turn the phone down, turn it off, whatever, and don't get on it. Again, I have a bad habit of, I use social media for my business, use it for ministry, but again, there are times where my kid was like, I finally come across something, and I was shouting, it was like, you are so late to the party. And I was like, that's fine. I can be late to the party. I don't have to be in everything. I don't have to know everything. I don't have to find out what everybody is doing, whatever. I can go back and I can look through notifications or whatever. My kids will come and tell me. And so you have to disconnect from all that noise out there. Reconnect with God in a sitting quiet space. Again, if you in this learning stage, this beginning part, sit with God and say, okay, God, I've got all this stuff on this that I'm committed to. What do you want me to be a part of? Because He doesn't want you to be a part of everything, because you can't be a part of everything. You can't be a jack of all trades. You're a master of none. And so, you can't be in everything. You can't do everything. You can't be there for everybody, and you got to protect your sacred space. I was sharing with a friend the other day about boundaries, and I setting those boundaries up. She did my hair, yay. And so she was telling me that people would just show up without appointments. And they were just like, she said one person showed up at her house at 7:30 in the morning. She got a husband and children, small children. And they showed up at 7:30. I'm like, hey, I was in the neighborhood at 7:30 in the morning. And she's like, but I went out and I said, you did what? You opened your door to somebody that you did not know because they found you and they wanted you to do their hair, but they didn't have an appointment. They just showed up. No. I said, absolutely not, ma'am. No. I said, absolutely not. I said, somebody shows up at my house at 7:30 in the morning and I did not expect you. I am not coming downstairs unless you were the police. Even the police. I don't even know if I would even actually go outside for the police if people showed up at my house for no reason. Because then it's probably not good news. But anyway, that's a whole other story altogether. But I told her, I said, no, man, you need to set some boundaries with people. And I said, you have to set your office hours. What are your hours that you actually will work and take clients? And that needs to be solid. I said, do not deviate. Do not. I said, because if you set a boundary and you allow people to step over, you're just going to keep pushing, and they're just going to keep pushing, and then they're going to tell their friends, and their friends are going to step over your boundaries if you don't set up. So what are your hard and fast rules of what you will not do? And I know 7:30 in the morning, absolutely not. You hadn't even started your day. You were still in bed. You hadn't started your day. Your kids weren't up. You got to get your kids ready for school. You got to do all this other stuff. You got little ones. You got school age. You got toddlers. She got a husband. 7:30. I was like, ma'am, no. And so we've got to set those boundaries, and we have to train the people in our lives to respect those boundaries. Again, my phone is on sleep mode. It goes on sleep mode automatically at, I think it's on 11 o'clock. Um, and it doesn't come off until 8:30 in the morning. So that gives me time to get up, to get my life together, you know, have my quiet time, do all other stuff. And then at 8:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, and it comes off, except for Sundays. So 6 days. So on Sundays it comes up early because we have Sunday school, so I get up earlier, and so it comes off because I need my phone. And it closes all the apps. There's only, you can set apps that you want to come in, and that is allowed to bypass. You can set up your people that you want to call you, that are your emergency people, you know, those people that are close to you, that you would accept calls from, that you would take a collect call from, those people. Those are the ones that are allowed to come through. It doesn't show text. It closes off Facebook and all the social medias, all the things. And, you know, so those are some things that you can do to protect yourself, to protect your peace, and that you are not your productivity. Um, but the names we call ourselves, we talked about that last week. And so, you know, people want you to be like a robot and just produce, 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 produce. But even machines break down. So get your rest. So God never asks you to be a robot. He created rest. He said that the Sabbath is for us, for our rest, for our healing, for our restoration. And so we need that. So how do we refill ourselves? Build a spiritual rhythm. Again, I have my Sunday naps. You know, if you have another day of the week that you're like, you can find that time to disconnect and just kind of, you know, get some rest. That's what you have to do. You know, I found out that even my brothers, without even conversations, they have picked up on this Sunday nap situation. And I think I've talked to them, and I was just like, they was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Taking my Sunday nap. Why are you calling me?" And so now they have picked up on Sunday and Sunday naps, and they take Sunday naps, and so they don't call me. You can call me later, but not right now. Not while I'm laying down. I don't like to answer my phone. I don't recall text messages. I'll text you whenever I reconnect back, and it's that sacred to me that I have to do that. You know, it's like I prepare dinner when I was cooking. My daughter cooks now, and so you know sometimes I'm her sous chef, but we eat later, and so that everybody can kind of disconnect. We all work, and we need to find a way to recharge, and everybody just kind of goes to their room, and everybody just kind of and take that wusa moment, and that's important. Create a Sabbath pocket. Again, maybe Sunday can't be your day, and maybe you have another time during the day or during the week that you can carve out some time, to be able to take care of yourself, um, and that find something that restores you, not just entertains you. So if you're resting and you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram and you're on TikTok and you're doing all, that's not resting. That is not resting at all. You know, so you want to disconnect from those things because sometimes they can be stressful. You don't need that in your life. Say yes to rest and no to guilt. Don't feel guilty about finding that place of rest, to getting that time to recharge and refill, especially if you're working a 9 to 5 and you've got the family, you've got all this other stuff, you got to retrain your family to be able to maybe get that rest too. You know, kids are going, 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 they're going to school. You probably got them in activities as well. So not only are you the chauffeur, you're the doctor, you're the nurse, you're the lawyer, you are the mediator, you are the short line cook, you are all the stuff. You are the laundress. You've got, you know, and guys, maybe you're the launderer, and so you got all this stuff that you are doing. So get yourself um, some rest. And one of the things I want to remind you of the story of Mary and Martha. And I wrote this book about maybe 2 years ago now, talking about choosing the one essential. And Jesus tells Martha that Mary has chosen the one essential thing that will not be taken from her. And what did she do? She sat at the feet of Jesus and she rested while Martha was running around. And again, she was doing good things, but she missed the God thing. She had Jesus in her house, and she was so busy getting stuff together that she missed the fact that he came to visit. And how many times are we so busy that we miss when Jesus comes to visit? And we are so tired that we don't even care that he came to visit because we're just so tired. We can't even see straight. That's not a good look for us. And I don't want that for you. And I don't want it to be, and I'm big on stories. So it's not, I want to be a part of your story. I don't want to be a part of your journey. I want you to get the rest that you need. I've also got a mini book that I wrote calling Finding Me Time in Your Busy Day. It kind of walked you through some steps of how do you carve out, maybe you need some help carving out that Sabbath time. How do you carve out that time? I know one of the things I used to do, and I shared that in that mini guide as well, is sometimes when I would just sit in my car, I would get home and I would just sit in my car, just because that drive home, it's not restful. It's not. It wasn't restful, not at all. It wasn't restful to me because trying to battle in traffic, everybody trying to get home, and all the stress of people road raging and all this other stuff, cutting you off, this, that. And it's like, and I would just take some time, just sit in the garage, and I would just sit there, turn the car off, and just, like 10 minutes, I would sit in my car, do nothing, absolutely nothing, just sit there, and allow my heart rate to calm down from fighting traffic, from the stress of work, all that stuff, and I would just kind of come in and just sit in my car. Sometimes I'll have the music playing and just have some soothing, soft music playing, worship music, and just sit in my car and just listen. Because we need that as part of our recharge. Um, you know, and my kids know too. Got home, I'm just put my stuff down, go to my room, and I was like, I need. So just add some additional minutes before I came downstairs and made dinner and all this other kind of stuff. And so that's something you have to do in order for you to have a good quality of life. You need to find time for you, and so again, we're talking about retraining your family, and you have to get them to that place and like, hey, mom needs 10 minutes, and then I'm all yours after this 10 minutes, whether, or it's 15 minutes, and you can set a timer, get you a little egg timer, or set a timer on the microwave or whatever. If you have younger kids, they like playing games, to give me 10 minutes. When this timer go off, mom is here, dad is here. I'm going to give you this time, get that I need this for mental health so I can be fully engaged with you, so I can really be there for you. I love you the way I need to love you, so I need this time. And I think when your family, if they love you, will want that for you. And again, no guilt. If you need to, you just need that time. We would do stuff on Friday when my kids were little. We had finger food Fridays. And, pick up some, whether it's fish sticks and fries, simple stuff that I didn't have to. Fridays, I was just like, it's the end of the week, and we have finger food Fridays. Whether it was, we grabbed some hamburgers and ate that. We grabbed some chicken and ate that. Whether I made tuna, not quite finger food, but, I would make pasta with tuna, make it the day before, put it in the fridge. Friday, it's simple. Help yourself so you don't have the stress of having to prepare. And this the kind of that Friday was kind of that family. This was about a lot of it was like hot dogs and beans or fries, simple things. And we had finger food Fridays. And I think my kids still talk about that as adults. And so when you got to train your family into those things where you may be cooking 4 or 5 days Cook on Saturdays. So you have your Sunday. All you have to do is heat it up or finish it off, put it in the oven, make your sides or whatever on Saturday. And the meat part of it, if you eat meat, then something that can stick in the oven and cook and you don't have to worry about it. Maybe just take the foil off and baste and keep it pushing. Make lasagna, freeze it, stick it in the oven, let it cook. And this way you're not having to be cooking, rushing every day, meal prepping. So all of that stuff is in the mini guide as well. But this is some of the things that I did to kind of give myself some margin. And again, I did the things that I enjoyed, and I learned no was a full sentence. Use it well to protect your peace, protect your boundaries, and know that you need to break up a burnout. It's not a part of your journey. It's not what God has for you. It's not what God wants for you. So I just want to encourage you to, live within your margins. Get rid of burnout. Again, if you're exhausted and you just can't seem to get it together, your body's crying for rest. And again, Jesus says, "Come to me, all those who are weary and heavily burdened, and find rest in me." And so he wants to give you rest. I hope this encourage you to take the time to rest. Take vacation. You got PTO. When my kids were younger and they were home, or even in school, and maybe you work outside of the home, I would get them ready for school, have my vacation day, take a PTO day, and I would just stay home and, probably go get my nails done, get my hair done or something, take myself out to lunch or, nothing extravagant because we talking about the financial piece. Gotta look at those. But those are some of the things that you can do. Just take the day, or even let the kids not go to school and have them stay home. So let them sleep in and you all sleep in and, budget it out. You have to plan it out. And, maybe just go to breakfast, have somebody else cook for you and just take that time to rest and recharge. It's so important. I cannot stress that enough. The importance of getting rest and quality rest. He said, if you don't have it and you're just not, and you're feeling yourself, you're frustrated, you're yelling at the kids, you're yelling at your husband, you're angry at this, you're angry at that. Because I know for me, I'm the nicest person, but when I'm tired, I am not. I get frustrated easy when I'm tired because my head hurts and I just can't seem to see straight. It's time to rest. And we need that. We need that. Our bodies need it. Our brains need it. Our spirit needs it. So I just want to encourage you to rest. Burnout is not a badge. So time to lose it if you got it, and take time to rest. So if this episode has resonated with you, I'd like you to like, share, follow us on all the social medias. And like I said, I'm looking for topics for our roundtable where we can focus. Drop me a DM, send me an email, whatever, go to our website and just send me a message and let me know, hey, this is something I think that I want to hear more about, and I'm willing to do that. So thank you, Amber, that God has given us everything that we need to live this life and to live godly, and we are empowered to live where faith and purpose align. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.